Hey everyone, in this video I will be showing you how to implement chat history in OpenAI API using JavaScript Node.js. So by this way we will be able to get data and context from our past conversations with the API. So I have already written the code with Node.js, Express and OpenAI API. If you want to watch the full tutorial of this, you can just click on the card that is appearing on top, or let me just quickly explain what I am having over here. I am importing two packages, one is OpenAI and another one is Express, and Express is used to create the endpoint. Here I am creating the OpenAI variable with the API key, and here the place where I am making the chat completion, sending the prompt from Postman, returning the response. Quite a simple process, and if I hit this path I'll be getting the response. So that's pretty much it, and in this video I'm having actually 4 ways how you can implement chat history, and you can pick any one of these based upon your use case. So these 4 ways are like individual users or some small projects that you're going to have, and I'm also going to show you how to clear the chat history as well as how you can handle multiple chat users in case like more than one user is going to use your application. So I'll be showing you all this stuff. So first let me explain you how we are going to achieve this chat history over here for the individual user. So basically I'm directly sending the prompt over here to the model and it gives the response, but we aren't saving this prompt as well as the response that we are using over here. So to have the context of this, basically we can have a list defined on top as a global one, and with the help of that list we will be able to get the context. So in that list we will be basically appending or adding the prompt as well as the response that we get from the model, and whenever the user again hits the endpoint, that particular list will be then sent over here along with the latest prompt. So by this way we will be sending the old data which is present in that list along with the latest prompt that the user sends. So model will have the previous chat information which is in that form of a list, and also will take decision or give us the response based upon the latest prompt. So by defining the global list we can enable chat history over here. So for this, just come to the top above the post endpoint and let's just have it as chat history, and make sure that you're having it as let, because if we have it as constant, whenever we are going to like reset or clear the chat history, it will throw us an error. So just have it as let, and the variable name is going to be chat history, and this is going to be a list, and inside this list there is going to be a JSON object. So just open the curly bracket. So this is going to be the initial state of our chat history. So we will be only having the custom instruction for the system. So inside this object we will be having 2 keys. One is we will be defining the role, another one is the context. So role is basically the user, system or the assistant, and context is the instruction or the prompt that we are giving to the model. So it's going to be role, this is the key, and this is the initial state, right? So we are just defining it, so it can be just system. You would have seen this a lot. And next is the context colon, I'm just going to have you are a helpful AI assistant. So this can be anything based upon your use case. In case if you want it like behave a funny way, you can just have that custom instruction over here. So this is going to be the default or the initial state. Next thing is we will be pushing the prompt that we send from Postman or the front end code. So for that, come inside the post endpoint that you are having, and above the completion call we will be having the prompt. So we can just add it to this particular list. So it's going to be our variable name, which is chat history dot, we'll be having the push, which is used to like add the value, curly bracket. Now here also we will be passing the exact same thing. It's going to be role colon, and this time it's going to be user. So by this way we are able to distinguish what is the API generated response and what is the user generated prompt after we pass the chat history to the model. So it's a good way you can to have this. And next is going to be the context, exactly the same thing that we are having over here, and rather than hard coding a sentence like this, here we will be passing the prompt that we get from the user. So it's going to be this variable, the prompt will be directly coming over here. So here we are having the role as a user and content as prompt. So basically we can just remove this and pass our chat history list over here, and this is content, just change it, it's not context. Over here also just change this to content. Yeah, now this is fine. And final thing that we need is we need to have the response that we get from the model, so which is present in this particular thing. Okay, this is the response that we are sending. So what we can do is the line above this one, above the response, we can just copy the exact same thing, the append code, put it over here, and this time this is going to be of role assistant. So the difference is system is going to be like the initial implementation where you pass the instruction to that model, whereas assistant is going to be that particular object which is getting as a response from OpenAI API, and this is going to be the user role. So we are like clearly defining the roles for each element in the list. So for this we don't need the prompt. The content here, it's going to be the response, so we can just copy the whole thing. This is the one that we are getting over here, so we can just put that here. So that's basically it. This is the request as well as the response method. Basically we are appending both inside a chat history variable. Now we are good. So to understand better, I will just have a console log over here. So basically before the response.send, I'm having this console log. Okay, so I'm going to restart the server. This is fine, and rather than having here 2-line poem, I will just have it as my name is John. Alright, and I'll just send it. So this is a response that I get. Hello John, how can I assist you today? So if I go to the console, this is the thing that we are getting. So first one is the initial value that we have defined. Next is the user prompt, which is here, and final thing is the response that we get from OpenAI's API. So everything is currently present in the chat history. So I'll just go again, and this time let me just give more personal information or something like that. So I'm going with I have 2 bikes, and send it. Yeah, and it's asking me what kinds of bike do I have, and if I go here, this was the first console that we have, and this is the second console that we're having. So basically these 3 were added in the first call, so these 3 are over here. In the second call I gave it I have 2 bikes, and it has given me what bikes do I have. So it just gets appended without erasing the previous data. So I'll just go with something. I'll just say I have a red bike. Alright, and send it. So that will also get added over here. Yeah, so it gets added. So now I will just go and ask what is my name. So I asked that as a first question, and after that I guess I have done 2 conversations. So let me just check if the chat history is working. What is my name? And send. So here you can see it says your name is John. So it has got hold of the first thing that we have sent, and it's now able to answer from that. So we are able to give it some context. And let me test it again. I'll just go with how many bikes do I have? Send it. I guess I gave it as 2. Yeah, I have 2 bikes, and so it has given us you have 2 bikes. So this method is perfect in case if you are building like a small individual chat application, or like quite a small project, or like a chat bot for an individual user. But there is also quite a flaw with this method. So here I'm just giving it a single line question, and it's returning single line. But what if a user is going to like interact with a lot of input data, and the model is also going to give out lot of response? So in that case our chat history will have lot of data in the content key. So imagine it has like 20 lines in content and 20 lines in user prompt. So by this way we will be like incurring a lot of input token generation, which will add to the cost. So in that case the second method comes in handy. In this way we will be only appending the request to the chat history, and we will be leaving the response. So for this exact same code, but here we are having the role assistant, right? We can just literally comment this out. So by this way only the user prompt will be added to the chat history, and the model will have the context of the prompt. It won't have any context of the response. So in that case we are eliminating a lot of extra tokens getting added to our chat history. So the input token size is also getting reduced. So we can just try this out also. So on server, yeah. So I'll just go with same thing. My name is Dan. Send it. And it has given me the response. But if I go to the chat history now, I'm only having the initial one as well as the user prompt. I will go with another prompt. I have a car. Send it. And here you can see only the user prompt is getting added. So if I just go here and again ask what is my name and send, my name is Dan. So we have got the output. So by this way we can still make OpenAI model to get the previous chat history just by using our prompt rather than adding the response. But let's suppose say that you really want to have the response context also, you don't want it to consume a lot of tokens. In that case we can enable the trimming method. So basically when we are adding the content value, that is the prompt as well as the response that we are getting from the model, we can basically trim that so that it doesn't go beyond a certain character limit. So for that we can use the slice function in JavaScript. So I'll just go here. This is the place where I'm adding the prompt. So let's say I don't want the prompt to be greater than 100 characters. So I'll just go here and put dot slice and open circular bracket. It's going to be 0, 100. So if we have more than 100 characters, it will just get eliminated and it won't be getting added to our chat history also, and it won't be even sent to the model. So what I would recommend is, this is kind of optional. You don't need to have it for the input prompt, but I highly recommend you to have this particular function for your response, especially that you're going to add to the chat history. So what we can do here is, so we are getting the response in the completion variable. So this is the response that is being sent to the user, and this is the response that is getting added to our chat history variable. So you don't need to disturb the response that you are sending to the user. Let them get the full view of the content, but we can limit the response that we are adding to the chat history. So we can just have here dot slice, and we can do like 50 characters. Let's say 50 characters. So more than that, we are just neglecting that. So by this way, the entire context goes to the user because we aren't disturbing the response itself, and we are also saving some tokens over here by limiting the number of characters that is getting saved in our chat history. So now let's see how this works. So restarting again, and this time I will just go with essay on AI, and let me just send it. So here we have got the essay on AI, such a big paragraph, and as you can see here, this is my chat history. So we are having the user prompt fully, but here since we have sliced it to the first 50 characters, so this is the first 50 characters, and this will be exactly over here. So you can just increase the number based upon your use case. So I'm just having this as a response in our chat history, but the user will be able to see the entire response that we have from OpenAI's model. So this is also another way in case if you really want to have the response. So that's over there. And next cool feature is removing the past conversations. So what if the user continuously gives chats and the model is also going to give back responses? In that case, the size of our chat history is going to get larger and larger because we are appending the prompt as well as the response over here multiple times. So in that case, what we can do is, after a particular threshold, we can literally remove the older chat that gets added over here. So let's suppose say that in case we are having 10 elements in our chat history list. So by 10 elements, what I mean is, this is one element, this is second and third. So if the length of our chat history list goes beyond 10, what I will do is I will basically remove the first 5 elements of our chat history list. So by this way, I am eliminating the old context that the user asked, and I am retaining the latest one. So here I am using the number 10 as an example. You can just have it as 20 or 30. So once the size of our chat history list goes about 20, you can literally remove the first 5 or 10 elements from the chat history. So by this way, in case if the user is going to prompt multiple times, we are still retaining the latest context by also eliminating the older chat. So this also saves us a lot of input tokens. So now let's see how we can do this. Just inside the post method, you can just like have this code anywhere. It's going to be if our list, that is chat history dot length, is greater than 20. So what I will do is, if the length is greater than 20, I will just remove the first 5 elements from our list. It's going to be chat history dot splice, and it's going to be from 1 till 5. So basically the first index till the 6th index. The reason why I am not deleting the 0th index is because in the 0th index we are having our main system prompt, so I don't want to disturb this. So it's going to delete the first 5 things, that is from the user generated prompt as well as the OpenAI model generated assistant output. So this is the code basically. So by this way, even if the user goes on adding and chatting, there will be a continuous flow and you will be also saved off some tokens. So basically these are the 4 ways that I found, like, to do this. And next thing is, let's try clearing the chat history. So for that, basically we can just have a separate endpoint. So I will just quickly like copy this code over here and put it like this. So we can just have it as app.post maybe, and this is going to be /reset, and we don't need the prompt or anything. So what we can simply do is, we had the initial state, right? We can just literally copy this and put it over here. So even though our chat history will be having a lot of data inside it, when we hit this particular path, it's going to simply replace all the content with this initial list. That's it. So simple to reset. And after we are done with this, we can just have a return statement, like returning the acknowledgement to Postman. So we can just simply have here cleared the data, something like this. So that's fine. Saving it and starting it from again. So let me just go with the same thing. My name is Dan, and yeah, we have got that. Let me just go and ask what is my name and send it, and we have got the response. So this is the current context. All right, so now I will just duplicate this and just have it as reset. I guess that's the name that we have given, reset. Yeah, and we don't need any request body. We can have it as none and just send it. So you are getting the clear the data. Now I'll just go here and try to hit the generate endpoint, and I'm going to ask what is my name. Send it. So it says it cannot provide me any detail. So basically we have cleared it and it doesn't have any context of the previous conversations, and this is how it looks. We're having the initial state, and this is the latest prompt that I gave, and this is the response which it cannot determine, and it just got cut because here we're having the slice, and this is the old one. We are having the previous context, but it has been now cleared. So the clear thing works perfectly. So now these methods are fine in case if you're creating an initial version of your chat or project. But let's suppose that if you want at least like 100 users, in that case we cannot be using this method, because this particular chat history variable is a common one in the server. So literally everybody will be getting access to it, and all the users data will be stored inside this particular thing. So we will be like mismatching the users data. In that case, we can have this particular thing where we will be having it as a dictionary, and we can just have for each user we will be having a separate list, and in that we will be storing it. So the key will be the user ID, and the content will be the chat history list of each user. So from the prompt, we here, rather than sending the prompt alone, we will be also sending the user ID. So it will get added in the dictionary under that specific user's ID. So that's what we are going to do. But if you ask me if this is an extremely efficient method, of course it's not. And in case if you are having like a real world application, I would recommend you to like use a database, like store the previous chats in the database and retrieve it and just add it to the model. So that's how it's going to work. But in case if you're just having like less than 100 users, I guess you can go with this method, also following the previous 4 ways that I have added. You can just combine this method that I'm going to show along with this 4 methods, and you can just try using that in case if you're having like few users. So now let's begin with this way. To the top, we need to have another variable. So for that, we can just name it as let user chat history, and this is not going to be a list but a dictionary, or you can just call it a JSON basically. So this is going to be empty, and let's not remove this because we need to still initialize each user's initial state. Okay, so we need to have this, but we can just cut and put it in, just don't delete this. So as I told you, we will be having another parameter which is user ID, so I'll just have it as like a dummy value over here. So now we need to get the user ID also. So for that, in the prompt, along with the prompt, we need to just have it as user ID over here. So now we need to add the user ID to our user chat history dictionary. So for this, just come to the next line right above the chat history. Okay, you need to be like literally the next line, don't add this after like pushing this. So here we need to just have a condition, if not off, we need to add our user chat history over here, and within square bracket we need to pass our user ID that we are sending. So basically what we are doing here is that if that particular user ID doesn't have any data in our main chat history, we need to create an entry for that user. So in that case, we can just literally copy this. We will be basically initializing the data for that user. And how we will initialize this, so this is how we create it. This is going to be the key. So we are initializing with a value. So the value is going to be this list. So we can just copy this till here and paste it. So exactly the same thing that we did earlier, but rather than doing it individually, we are having here with a user ID. So I hope this made sense, and we can just now remove this. So this is going to be the individual initial state of each user if the user ID doesn't exist. If the user ID exists, this condition will fail and we won't be like reinitializing it. So the next step is going to be, you need to add the user prompt along with the response from OpenAI's model to individual users. So for that, the simple thing, we will be having another variable. So just come to the next line, it's going to be let individual chat history. So now we need to access the individual chat history. So for that, we can literally use this particular thing. I'll just copy this and put it over here. So basically what this lines mean is, we are now getting access to the individual user's chat history. So by this code, we are getting access to this list in our main chat history. So imagine we are sending the user ID. If the user ID is not there in our main chat history, we are adding with the initial list to that. And here when we try to access it, we will be getting this initial list. But let's suppose say that that user already has, so this condition will fail. And if we try using this, this will give us the total list of that user. So basically it will have all over here. Now we just need to simply remove this and pass our individual chat history variable. So we can just put it over here. And now if we just come down, we can just have this, yeah, rather than chat history, we can just have individual chat history. The exact same condition also applies over here. So if it goes about 20, we are deleting the elements only in the individual chat history. After this, here also we can add it, and we can just console.log the individual chat history if you want. And the same thing applies for resetting the data also. We'll be just accessing the individual chat history and defining the initial state. So for this over here, we need to get the user ID, right? So I'll just copy this and we need to put it over here. It's going to be the user ID alone. We don't need the prompt over here. So we need to send the user ID from here. So we'll be using the body over here. This will be user ID. All right. And over here, this is going to be the initial state, but we need to get access of that user ID, right? I can just copy this and put it over here. So now we can just remove this and remove this also. That's it. So directly we are reinitializing to the initial state itself. So this will take our chat history for that individual user to the exact thing that we created here. Remember, if the user ID doesn't exist, we literally created this, right? We just added this exact same thing that we are doing here. We're just getting the user ID and just literally reinitializing how it was in the initial state. And another important thing here, when we are passing to the chat completion, we need to just pass the individual chat history. We don't need to pass the entire main chat history. Just the individual chat history is enough to be passed to the function. So that's basically the code, and let's just see how it works now. So just rerun it again, and yeah, I'll just go here to the generate function. So first thing, let me just have the user ID as 1, and I will go with my name is John and send. So user ID 1 is with John, and let's suppose say I am a doctor, and send it. So all the things is getting saved under John's stuff, John's list. And now let me change the user ID to 2. So these are getting newly created. I will just go here. I am Dan and I am a singer. Alright, I will just send it now. So this is getting added in user ID 2. So as you can see, this is a separate one. So for John, here we are having a separate history list, and for Dan we are having a separate thing. So that's how beautifully we can create this. So now let me just go with user ID 1 and ask, give me my name and profession. It's going to be give me my name and profession, and send. So it needs to get John's name as well as the profession. So as you can see, we have got the response. Name is John and you have mentioned that you are a doctor. Amazing. Let me go with user ID 2 and ask the exact same question. We need to get, I guess, Dan and singer. That's absolutely perfect. So now let's see how to reset it. So rather than passing these stuff, we can just have it as 1. That's it. I am clearing John's data. Alright, John, who was the doctor. I'm going to reset it, send, clear the data. If I go here and go with 1 and send the exact same prompt, it won't be able to give us the output. That's it. So this method works amazingly well, and we have also added that clear condition also. So this is like a nice way in case if you're having few users, but in the long run, if you're going to scale to thousands of users, I would literally recommend you to store this chat history in the database and retrieve and use it. But for an instantaneous or a momentary chat, I guess this code really does the job. This user ID way, you can literally use it in your application. So that's a video, guys. In case if you have any opinion, you can let it know in the comments. Do check the playlist of my channel. Done a lot of videos in OpenAI, Gemini AI, API and AI tools. Subscribe me. Thanks for watching.